You know, that wasn't an All-Ireland winning performance.
Probably should have won the game based on their second half performance.
Is it a step too far to say it was the performance so far of the World Cup? Maybe not.
OTB AM's performance rankings with Gillette.
I'm scratching my head. That performances was just lacked that intensity.
Okay, so as you said, that there's a load of different things to get into. That point that I just made there a moment ago, the GEA League being in tatters, is something we're going to kick off with. We're going to go through Everton, Manchester United, some of the hurling storylines, Galway and what happened in that game against Mayo yesterday, and hopefully get all that in over the next little while. But just on that GEA League form, I think it's a common theme that we saw over the course of the weekend, that some of the storylines that we thought might have prevailed throughout the summer have already been left in ruins, really. Now, I don't think that anybody thought that the hurling storylines from the league were going to maintain in summer, for example, Limerick.
Well, but Wexford, I did think Wexford were going to use the league as a springboard to catapult themselves into maybe contention. I thought that they were on the coattails of Waterford across the league, and then Dublin did them. Now, Wexford will rue missed chances, missed frees, missed penalty, second week in a row, missed penalty, and but they could be out. That could be it for them, and they should be out. If Galway just hadn't bottled the last 5 minutes against them, then Wexford will be gone from the championship. So they're hanging on by fingernails at the moment. Yeah,
the thing is, Dublin didn't have a bad league themselves at all. They finished above Tipperary in the league, although maybe on the evidence yesterday that's not actually something to write home about. But Wexford were definitely better, it felt, than Dublin.
Definitely.
In the league, so
Dublin collapsed in the league, and you can kind of pinpoint the game against Kilkenny where they were going into that game going, we're full of confidence, this is something, we're real, and then collapse. But they bounced back, and they played good hurling, and they outthought Wexford in that game.
Form is just bizarre, really, isn't it, when you think about it? We know that we can't ever compare results from, Team A against Team B and then Team B against Team C and hope that A and C matches up on that. But even by that, knowing that, nothing like that even makes sense. You talk about the Dublin hurling team, and you would have looked at maybe the game against Laois in week 1, and you might have pointed to even that, not even the league, you might have pointed to week 1
they
and
nearly
said,
lost.
Listen, this could actually be a real problem for them if that's where they're at. Or maybe Laois are just really good. And then Kilkenny absolutely tear Laois limb from limb at the weekend. So nothing makes sense. We know absolutely nothing. And we maybe should never ever get into the prediction game or trying to put any sense on what happens, because the championship is random and wonderful. And that weekend was just crazy. And that's just the hurling. The football form lines have also been left in tatters, which is a little bit more surprising, because the Football League matters more than the hurling league right now, and that's the truth. I think, to be fair, a lot of people had said that the back-to-back games against Roscommon, from a Galway perspective, you can't read a whole pile into them. I wasn't sure, I don't know, but people had made the point that maybe the first of those two games was a bit of a phony war because Galway had already got promoted, and secondly, they were 2 weeks out from the Mayo game, so why would they bother showing their hand against Roscommon in Croke Park? Now, I'm not sure if that's actually the truth, but they definitely did have a different game plan yesterday. There was definitely a better defensive game plan. I think they had an extra man back against Roscommon in that league final, but it was pretty ineffective. Yesterday, that defence was far more packed. It was a perfect antidote to Hornball. And at the same time then, they only win the game by a point. So again, I think we just need to accept, when it comes to this Galway Mayo fixture yesterday, there were a ton of different ways that you can actually look at it. When you look at the transfer players that Mayo have to come back into the team, when you look at the fact that Galway, in slow motion, almost ended up losing grip on that win yesterday.
Yeah.
It would have been less extraordinary had Mayo scored 2 goals and drawn the game. It was 5 points just rattled off, and Keegan goes over the bar at the outside of the boot. You're like, okay, nice. Mayo are turning it on now, and it doesn't actually matter. And were it not for maybe poor shot selection from Aidan Orme right at the end, if they'd passed the ball around in the loop one more time and found a shooter, it's a draw. And to pick off 6 consecutive scores in a row would have completely changed how we're talking about this Galway team this morning. But it sometimes takes a really ugly conclusion to grind out a big result at the very start for a manager's reign to get going. And it feels like Pádraig Joyce has been one of those managers who's been mostly affected by COVID, just because of the height that Galway were at in early 2020. So you've got to look at that, and you've got to look at the management team that he's got around him, and some of the players that are clearly on the upward trajectory. And that includes someone who's 32 in Paul Conroy at the moment, who's playing the best football of his life. And you're saying, okay, I think the fact that they won is more important than the fact that they almost lost. if that makes any sense.
It does. I mean, I see the benefits of the argument, and here's the thing. Like, it's Leitrim in the next round. We'd expect them to win that, and then it'll be Roscommon in the final. So an opportunity for them to win the important game against Roscommon this year and to bounce straight into an All-Ireland quarter-final with the confidence of a title behind them. At the same time, are you making them overwhelming favourites? Are you making them 5-point favourites against Roscommon?
No.
You're not. Like, you know, would you be terribly surprised if Roscommon beat them on the day?
Absolutely not.
No. So I think if they'd seen the game out, if they'd won by 5 points, you'd be like, yeah, that was a great performance. That's like a signature win for them. It's just that there was also a signature near collapse.
Yeah, and there is time, and I think the fact that they have another game before what should be Roscommon and what should be a win in that game before Roscommon is something that's really going to benefit them. Like, if we kind of like keep on the theme of league form, like, I know Mayo were hockeyed in the league final, but they got to the league final. They were on the table the second best team in Division 1 this year, and I think if you looked at the league final, you would have said, okay, well, they just didn't care about that game. They're keeping things up their sleeve, and they're going to show them against Galway. And we didn't see that at all. And I think the Mayo level of performance is actually quite surprising, even allowing for the fact that they were missing a lot of really important players. I think Rob Henley is a big loss to this team at the moment. I think Paddy Durkin is a big loss to this team. I think Cillian O'Connor needs time, but he's going to get time. It is 6 weeks until Mayo play again. It's 3 times the gap that they had between the Kerry and Galway game, the gap that they now have before their next game. Yes, it's going to be a very good team that they play. There's a good chance it'll be a very good team that they play, but like, there's a long, long time for them to get things back together, and I would not be surprised if they got further than Galway in this championship.
6 weeks is like a taper down, go on holidays, do a full pre-season, taper back up, and then you go again. It's an insane amount of time. It's almost like this championship structure hasn't been thought through properly.
Yeah, possibly.
And here's the other thing: no one's going to show up to these games. No one's going to. You know, we should definitely not factor in any financial benefit of having 27,000 at games. You cannot do that. You can't. People don't want to watch championship matches in April. They definitely don't. It's too cold outside.
Yeah, like
Proposal B is useless.
Well, I mean, like, the league did take a battering this weekend. I mean, that's what the counterpoint to that would be.
Yes, because the championship is the only thing that matters, and if everybody was playing the championship, everybody would show up in big numbers because we want to see good games between teams. And look at all the minnows, the games between the minnows. They were all great. There was something in all of them to make you show up. The game in Ockram sounds like it was an absolute roller coaster.
A goalfest. The other league form line that we were interested in was Armagh. I think that maybe we kind of spoke about this at the end of the league, that the form wasn't as hot as it was at the start.
Well, that's it, isn't it? Actually, does this not blow up your argument here? In that Armagh's league form has actually come straight through, and also Donegal's Ballybuffet form has come through, where it's a complete fortress. No thanks. No one's ever going to win there again. And if they could play every game there, they'd be All-Ireland champions. It's the equivalent of Dublin and Croke Park.
Well, what are Donegal very flaky or very unflaky? Like, how do you look at this whole decade that they've had since last winning All-Ireland and put a word on it? If we have to go, you're a tabloid headline writer and you've got one word, are you going flaky or unflaky? Is unflaky a word?
No.
I don't know.
Unbreakable would be the opposite of flaky, would it be? But that's not really. They're not that either.
Like, they beat Armagh by 1 point on the final day of the league when they had that brawl. Like, that was the form line, and like, they'd lost to Dublin in Croke Park the week before that. Obviously, Armagh had beaten Dublin in Croke Park earlier in the league. I do think that this does break the form a little bit, but I also do accept that there were signs that Armagh were, as I say, not as hot as they were earlier in the league. But Donegal also and Ballybuffet, as you say, are just this incredible beast. But also in the Ulster Championship, full stop, that the problem for Donegal has been getting to the semi-final when it really matters. And yes, that has, over the last 2 seasons in particular, tripped its way into the Ulster Championship because there was no back door. There's a bit of a Mayo about them, and I mean that in the best way possible, where they will get to a certain level and they will put up impressive performances throughout the season before falling at a hurdle that's been a problem for them over the last little while, and not getting to a semi-final since beating Dublin in 2014 is constantly going to be the thing that I guess really irks Donegal people, because they feel that team was definitely good enough and has been good enough to get to a semi-final. I mean, that's not what you should be talking about.
I mean, I think they should have beaten Kerry in the All-Ireland final.
Yesterday.
I do think they should have beaten Kerry in that All-Ireland final, and we'd be talking completely differently about that Kerry team if the ball hadn't been kicked out to Donaghy and Donaghy hadn't kicked it into the back of the net. But I think that what you can say about them, it's not a very snappy headline, is that they have a paper thin squad, and that paper thin squad breaks down again and again and again when one player or two players get injured. It's been McBurdy or Murphy getting injured at one stage of the season or other, and they appear to be fit at the moment. And as a result, they're like taking care of business against a Division 1 team. Like, it was a routine victory for them.
Yeah, and it could have been more. Like, I know Armagh had that flurry at the start of the second half where they could have picked off a couple of goals, but Donegal should have gone into the break with a bigger lead.
And if they were in Munster, or if they were in Leinster, they'd now be looking forward, or if they were in Connacht, they'd be looking forward to a bit of cannon fodder, and then one more game, and then you're in an All-Ireland quarter-final. But as it is, it's like, okay, another slog, and there'll be brawls, and there'll be suspensions, and there'll be injuries along the way. So I think that's what explains it.
Is there anything in that game yesterday that suggests that Armagh had their eye off the ball as a result of the suspensions? Because this was an argument put forward by Mark O'Shea in the Mail on Sunday yesterday, that when he got off a suspension back in the day for a Munster semi-final, or maybe a Munster final against Cork, just played really poorly. He said that when Lee Keegan got off suspension a few years ago for Mayo in a big championship match, he played poorly. He made the point that Diarmuid Connolly, after a famous late-night suspension let-off, nobody actually remembers how Connolly played in that game.
Not great.
Not great. So he actually called this yesterday, that Armagh were going to be affected in a negative way by the suspensions, and that's been an argument that's been put out. I'm not sure if I fully subscribe to it, but I think maybe on Donegal's, I think it actually tells us something about Donegal, that they were like, it was kind of like Liam Cahill-esque, where they're like, we're not going to appeal these, and we're going to focus on ourselves and actually control what we can control. As it turns out, you can control the disciplinary process as well, to be honest, but maybe that just indicated a bit more about Donegal's mentality going into the game. I don't know, like, it feels like not a watertight argument, but it's something, it exists.
And fair play to him for making it in advance, because certainly afterwards you can go, well, I mean, there's something to it. I don't know. I think, like, is there something to the fact that maybe Armagh need to re-establish themselves as a Division 1 team over many years, so that when stuff like this happens, or when they go through the back door, they're ready for whatever comes next? Like, I don't think Armagh are done just yet. I certainly, Armagh Mayo will be a good ding-dong battle at a neutral venue. Are the qualifiers going to be neutral? I don't know, are they?
I presume so, but again, you can't assume anything. It's usually, I don't know, like, I hope so, and like, that would be an absolutely brilliant clash between those two. So what you're looking at is whoever comes through now over the next couple of weeks to try and beef up those qualifiers, but it's going to be Mayo against one of those Ulster teams is the fixture you want to see.
Who are the easy teams left who are going to be in the qualifiers? Like, who are the easiest teams? Who is everybody looking at going, yeah, I'll take you?
Cork, really, isn't it?
Meath.
Meath stayed up. It was Offaly Down who went down from Division 2, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So Louth, potentially after getting their promotion from the Division 3.
Well, now they're going to be in the Leinster final.
Yeah, as it turns out. There is...
Now they're 4-1 and 5-point underdogs against Clare, by the way, which are, I think... that's an incorrect assessment of how that game's going to go.
Like, never can you ever point a finger at somebody and accuse them of yarring away their county's chances. You are sitting here, 5 days in advance on a Monday morning after the busiest weekend in sport, and you're pushing this narrative that Kildare are going to get beaten by that.
No, I think it's much closer to a 50-50 game than a 4-1 outsider in a 2-horse races. Like, that's incorrect. It's a 2-point game, and it'll be in the melting pot right until the end.
We'll see.
They just scored 5-10.
Yeah, and they have
15-point victory in a.
Like, I mean, they have a couple of like outstanding forwards, and like, I know Sam Mulroy's got a lot of the credit this year, but Kieran Byrne is obviously excellent as well. But Kildare will be like, I see her two. I see her a couple of excellent forwards, and I'll raise you 3. And they've got an inside forward line that is just primed to do damage in the Leinster Championship, outside of maybe a game against Dublin at the moment. And Kildare should be licking their chops at the prospect of having a few games in the Leinster Championship after slogging it out in Division 1 all spring. Like, this is where those 3 inside forwards really should come into their own. So that defeatist attitude, I don't think, is going to wash in that camp this week.
An impressive win for Cavan. Coy Bib, says Shane. Shifty Lad says, lads, I hope you moved Wicklow up a page in the power rankings. Amazing game and result. I hope you realise how much a win means for a small team. Congratulations to Garden. James says, 2 weeks ago I ripped into Owen for not putting Munster in the red after their loss to Exeter. I have to eat humble pie and admit they should be in the green given their response with 2 huge wins. The season is back up and running. Johan van Grand no more. Johan van Great. Step forward.
Wow. This is a real Gilroy special this morning, isn't it? I mean, loving Munster, hating Kildare. This is just a complete about turn on all your beliefs.
No, I love Munster. That's the whole point about this.
Yeah, you just want them to succeed. Their downturn makes you sad, basically.
Well, yeah, all great teams need a rival. What's next?
Everton are next. Speaking of all great teams needing a rival, I don't think Liverpool wants any sort of rival in Liverpool at the moment. They're talking about a quintuple this year by winning all 4 trophies and relegating Everton. That's the thing that they want. And yesterday was, like, I mean, we'll get to Manchester United Arsenal, which was, for me, the chaos of that and the crapness of it really made it the game at the weekend. But there was also kind of a good level of hilarity around Everton against Liverpool yesterday. Not least Anthony Gordon going on Twitter after the game to say that he was fouled and that penalty that wasn't given in the second half should have been given. I think it was like a couple of the hands up emojis on Twitter yesterday. Frank Lampard giving out about it afterwards, saying if that was a Liverpool decision, if that was Mo Salah, it would have been a penalty. And then obviously Liverpool Twitter comes out with the statistics that Mo Salah doesn't get fouled very often at all. So on social media, this is kind of taken on a life of its own. Everton versus Liverpool, the flashpoint before half time, where Mane puts a hand in the face, the Richarlison is down lying on the ground, Doucouré takes the legs from under a Liverpool player to just try and stop this game. There was enough needle in this, and obviously the cherry on the cake was Pickford lying on the ball late in the first half, and Alisson with Liverpool's cushion in the second half. The ball rolls to him and he lies prone on the floor. Like somebody's trying to hide on Call of Duty at the end, taking the piss out of Jordan Pickford. Just a lovely moment and a lovely collection of moments of memes really throughout this Liverpool-Everton game. And Liverpool were always going to win this fixture. And because of what Burnley did earlier in the game, Everton started that fixture in the relegation zone, and that's obviously where they end. So I thought they were safe a couple of weeks ago after they beat Manchester United. But I too am eating humble pie because Everton, you can never count on them to not let you down.
If Everton go down, they're going to be the new Leeds. It could be a generation before they get back. Like, I understand things are different now from when Leeds went down, and that the parachute payments make it very likely you're going to be able to keep most of your team together. And most clubs have been able to use that to at least yo-yo back in. But I'm just not sure that Everton are most clubs. It feels like whatever you can say about the Manchester United dressing room, you could say times 100 about the Everton dressing room over the last couple of years, with a few obvious honourable exceptions. And is Frank Lampard the man you want to yo-yo you back up? I'm not sure. I don't know. Like, Burnley's recovery has been remarkable, absolutely remarkable. And now they turn from being the hunter to the hunted, and let's see if they can maintain what they're doing. But Everton's fixture list, it's not great. Like, the one thing that Everton have is that Leeds are also sinking like a stone, and that they might be able to catch them. So Everton's fixture list are Chelsea next Sunday, Leicester the following Sunday, Watford midweek, Brentford, who are obviously doing quite well at the moment, and then their final 2 games are Palace, and the final game of the season is at Arsenal, who will definitely have something to play for, or who may actually already be fourth. Is there a possibility they've got it wrapped up by the last game of the season? Yeah.
There's a possibility, obviously, if this Spurs collapse is to be believed, but this is Arsenal we're talking about, and I'm not necessarily sure. Like, I think we're like on the theme of eating humble pie. Like 2 weeks ago, I said Arsenal, given their current form, would be lucky if that Tottenham fixture actually mattered for them, that Tottenham will be out of sight at this point, and Arsenal have Chelsea and Manchester United coming down the tracks, and Spurs are going to keep winning. Arsenal are going to lose to Chelsea, and they'd be doing well to beat Manchester United. As it turned out, Spurs lose to Brighton, Arsenal beat those 2 teams, and things have turned quickly. So yeah, the chances are Arsenal will still have something to play for, I think, on that final day. But the main thing about that fixture is that it's at the Emirates, and Everton on the road have been chronic over the last little while. That's been their big issue. Like tonight, like you're right, Leeds United are definitely not in the clear whatsoever. They're playing Crystal Palace tonight.
But if they were to win tonight, that you would feel that that's enough of a buffer. But if they lose that, Leeds then play Manchester City, Arsenal, Chelsea in their next 3 games after that, which is, I mean, I'm not saying it's 0 points guaranteed, but it could well be 0 points. So then all of a sudden they've got 2 games after say their season, which is Brighton at home and Brentford away. Again, they could easily, with a gun to their heads, win those 2 games. So the fixture list over the last while is pretty interesting. Burnley play Villa twice, Villa also not entirely safe if everybody was to
No.
go on a crazy run here.
Well, not that you'd be concerned in the immediate term about that, but it's surprising to see them only 4 points clear of Leeds United, because it doesn't feel like Leeds United are only 4 points behind Aston Villa, given the talk around both of those clubs this year.
Well, there was an initial, Stevie G's a really good manager, and
Yeah.
now it's like, well, it'd be remarkable if you were to be gifted the ability to be both a generational talent as a footballer and then also one of the best managers in world football, which is essentially what we're talking about. Anybody who makes it to the Premier League has one of the best 40 or 50 jobs in world football, because you're getting paid millions to manage a football team, and so you should be one of the very best, because there aren't that many people who are getting paid millions to manage a football team, and so you should definitely be one of the top 50 people in the world at that job. And it would be remarkable that you would be like one of the top 10 footballers and also one of the top 50 managers. And maybe CVG's not that.
Like, they've lost more games this season than Leeds and Burnley have lost. It's just that middle column which is really low. Only Arsenal have drawn fewer games in the Premier League this season, Villa. So that's been kind of their theme. That maybe in that side of the season, just finding a way to not lose games is something that makes them, at Brighton, and that's the difference between those teams. So I wouldn't be overly concerned. Like, there's no immediate concern, I don't think. Like, as I say, if you're looking at Brentford, for example, who've really gone on the uptick over the last little while, there's only 3 points between them. Southampton are only 3 points ahead of Villa, and Villa have games in hand, I think. So I think that the table is lying a little bit about Aston Villa's current state. And
are they? Like, what if would you back them to beat Burnley twice? I don't know. Like, Burnley's fixture list is Watford, Villa, Spurs, Villa, and Newcastle on the last day of the season, who will be completely safe, and like, we're never going to see each other again. Most of the team are going to be looking at each other. So I'm feeling pretty good if I'm Burnley at the moment. Yeah,
and especially you're looking over at what's happening at Everton. That's the main reason of hope for Burnley. But like, it would be quite the win, because who are you backing to get yourself out of a relegation dogfight? You probably would have been backing Dyche against Lampard, especially after the win against Everton, and for things to have taken a turn so quickly, as in Burnley to sack him so quickly after that win,
and for it to have worked out.
But it seems that way.
Like, they're very lucky owners if they manage to get out of this. Very lucky owners.
Rather than brave. But yeah, no, good old Michael Jackson doing the job.
Villa's fixture list, it has Norwich next. So all they got to do is beat Norwich and they'll be on 40 points and they'll be grand. But if they don't do that, then it's Burnley, Liverpool, Palace, Burnley and City. So, it's not beyond the bounds of possibility that they could suck back into it. So the game against Norwich, against Dean Smith, wouldn't that be amazing for Dean Smith to come back and go, screw you, screw you, screw you, screw you. That would be pretty remarkable. But not beyond the bounds of possibility in this crazy topsy-turvy Premier League season that we've had so far.
No, it's going to be a good few weeks for sure.
Everton are going to be the new Leeds. Mark my words. If they go down, there are too many players on too big wages in that changing room who won't take a pay cut. And will the owners, will the new stadium go ahead, or does this blow the whole thing up? I have a strong sense that Everton are completely screwed for a generation if they go down. Wayne Rooney's going to get the Everton job if they go down, says Peter. Wayne Rooney is too smart to take the Everton job if they go down, Peter. He wants the Man United job, and I think there's more chance of being the next Man United manager than there is of being the next Everton manager.
Could be waiting a while.
GA pundits and the power rankings should be in the red after the weekend, says Edward.
GA pundits for sure, not the power rankings.
I think the Football Pod did a pretty good job of predicting most of the scores, with the exception of Paddy back in Armagh, right? I think the other two, certainly they had Donegal, and didn't I don't know who have. Did they pick Wexford on home advantage? Didn't he?
I don't remember.
I think he did. Ger talking about how great Kildare were all spring. Now he's trying to tell us Louth have a chance. Hashtag Gera.
Hey, yes,
says Porrick.
Keep that coming, Porrick.
No, look, I'm just saying we had a great spring. We are reborn as we have an identity, but there's a banana skin here. There's nothing wrong with that. Louth are a banana skin for Kildare. We're not so arrogant like our friends here that we're like, oh well, we'll just get preparing for an All-Ireland quarter final because that's what happens. Like, we're not like that.
This is the Jack O'Connor legacy. If you're looking for a legacy in Kildare, we're hearing it right here, right now.
Yeah, I mean, if Jack was still there, we'd be like, all defence, 16 men behind the ball against Louth. How are you going to stop Mulroy? Jesus, we can't, so let's not try.
Bit of pent-up frustration there, I'm sensing.
What's next?
Last year's. What's next is Manchester United. Like, if we were putting a game in the green, it would have been Arsenal versus Manchester United in the early kick-off on Saturday.
How are Manchester United in the amber here?
Let me explain this first of all.
They used to be in red, right?
As an institution, obviously, they're in the red. But, you know, there are people who follow Manchester United closely who are not Manchester United supporters. And for those people, this is green, green, green. This is the greenest thing the Performance Rankings has ever produced. And like I was kind of making the point earlier on that if this was an Amazon documentary, Amazon would have struck gold. But actually, I'm reconsidering that. We actually don't need behind-the-scenes cameras to give us a full, naked, blunt view of the chaos that is ensuing at Manchester United. I think Manchester United have been on these performance rankings every single Monday for the last 2 months. And yes, at times I got bored of Manchester United, but I'm actually getting more and more excited about Manchester United with every passing week, with every new way that they manage to find hilarious ways of creating headlines. Like Saturday was a vintage day. And even if you take away the fact that it was one of the most chaotic games of football we've seen in recent weeks, like, I mean, two full-backs going up against two full-backs and all four of them just being quite bad at football was beautiful. Granit Xhaka's resurgence was great. Bruno Fernandes missing a penalty, sending Ramsdale the wrong way, but Ramsdale still celebrating for some reason. These were all great moments, but it was in the aftermath that things just reached a whole new level. And clearly the best part about it all was Paul Scholes on Punditry for DAZN, who says, I know Jesse Lingard won't mind me saying this, but he told me that the dressing room is a disaster. And I would probably
I had a quick chat with Jesse there. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me saying the dressing room is just a disaster.
I think Jesse Lingard probably would mind you saying that.
I was reading that from the back page of the Telegraph today. Daniel Zakiri, who I haven't read before, but he's like, "Are we sure he won't mind Paul? Are we sure? Is that okay? Are you sure?" I mean, he might have cost Jesse Lingard a bit of money there. If you're Newcastle or West Ham and you're like, oh, so he speaks to pundits, knowing that they're pundits, and then the pundits feel enabled to go and tell everybody on telly what's going on. I'm not sure I want that in my team. I don't think I want that for my ball club.
Like, Scholes just chose to kind of explode this thing on Saturday, because he too is also enjoying the soap opera that is around his club this season. Clearly, he too believes that this is very much a good story and a fun story that everybody's kind of enjoying at the moment, because look, things would probably be better for Manchester United this season. Maybe we need to kind of enjoy this madness for a little bit longer. Like, it's got McTominay coming out after the game as well on Saturday. A whole lot of problems in terms of players, staff, everything higher up was his appraisal of the whole thing. Rangnick was obviously asked on BT Sport about the Jesse Lingard related comments, and he says you'll have to ask Jesse Lingard if you have this information. He says I think the whole group got on reasonably well, but like earlier in the week, Rangnick was describing this thing as open heart surgery as opposed to something cosmetic. Like, some of the sound bites we're getting on a week-to-week on a day-to-day basis are excellent. Like, they are just brilliant content at the moment, Manchester United, and it is ironic that the whole, well, not the whole reason, but one of the reasons why they've got themselves into this mess is because they did chase players who would, I guess, be content for the club. Like, Paul Pogba was a great player if you were a content machine as a football club, and all of a sudden they're accidentally giving the whole football media beast content that is just beyond everybody's wildest dreams week after week.
So then they should be in the green, really.
I would edge them up there personally. I'm not a Manchester United fan, so I would do it, but I would suggest
the Manchester United soap opera is in the green.
Yeah, it's glorious. It's epic.
I haven't read this Daniel Zakiri before, but this is excellent stuff. He's talking about the rivalry between BT and Sky Sports and the difference between them. And he says Sky are front runners because they've got Keane, and Keane obviously has been, you know, he's reached that 8th stage of grief, as we've spoken about on the show here before. But he also says it's important to have a bit of balance to your. The antagonist from a rival club is an important part of the cast, with Graham Souness, Carragher, and world's most earnest man Martin Keown playing the role this week. Their job is to probe, prod, and sometimes laugh at United's expense, which they're more than happy to do. Though curiously, Souness seems to be the one man in the world with a good word to say about the Glazers. We shouldn't overlook the host, with Dave Jones' understated style on Sky preferable to the unctuous leading questions of Jake Humphrey. Jones knows his guests well enough to be aware of the buttons to press without veering into smarm or thigh slapping, While Humphrey oscillates between flattering and baiting them, nobody at United is likely to be invited on his high-performance podcast anytime soon. Proof alone that a slide into mediocrity can have its upsides. You were at Alan Partridge last night, weren't you?
I was.
Yeah, it was really good. I was Saturday night. It was excellent, I thought.
Oh, yeah. Genius.
The whole Martin Brennan section, was that just for us in Ireland, or is that for everybody?
Literally just about to say it. I get the sense it was for everybody.
Yeah.
Because A, it was too good to use it on 2 nights.
It was too good.
Yeah. And B, also, it didn't feel like there was very many in-jokes. If anything, it felt like the whole thing was like a good knowledge of English geography would have served you better than a knowledge of Ireland, for example.
Wigan.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So no, I think he's going to use that. His Irish accent is absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, it's as you would expect.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I just thought that I don't know why the segue from Jake Humphreys to Alan Partridge felt normal there, but it did. 5 minutes past 8 this morning. Amazon would have been laughing their bollocks off if they were covering Man United instead of Arsenal this season, says Yassim. And Devo says, as an Arsenal fan, I thought United were unlucky not to get 2 more penalties on Saturday. Arsenal's defence would give you a heart attack. And that's the thing. That's the thing. It's like one of the match reports was a Barney Roney or somebody was like, curiously, there was stuff for Man United to cling on to in this game.
Yeah.
Like there was actually clear signs of improvement, that something, and then just misfortune, because that football is like ultimately a bunch of random things happening. So anyway, right. Roscommon will beat Galway and Cavan will beat Donegal, says Connor. Well, that would blow the championship wide open, wouldn't it?
Yeah, like, I mean, both of those teams have pretty happy memories in the not too distant past of beating those teams. Yeah, what a backdoor that would be if Galway and Donegal go in. Obviously, Roscommon beating Galway is a much higher likelihood. But I think if you're talking about good predictions last week, did Football Pod not predict Cavan to get beaten?
Oh, did they?
I don't want to step out of line here, but definitely from what I was hearing, Antrim were looking good for that. But
well, Tommy was predicting that specifically.
Yeah, okay. I think Tommy. It was just Tommy.
13 points off there, Tommy.
In the green this week, just a couple of things to touch on here. Clare and Port Joyce are in the green this week. Two great performances. I'm putting Clare in there for obvious reasons. There was like a real sense of confidence, I felt, going into yesterday's game against Clare, which I was a little bit surprised by. Obviously, I was wrong to be surprised given the performance that they put in. And maybe the reason why I was surprised is because I actually thought Tipperary were quite good the previous week against the Waterford team that are obviously in decent enough form at the moment. So Tipperary were bad yesterday. They definitely played worse yesterday than they did the previous week. Obviously, a couple of injuries earlier on. John McGrath going off is not an ideal situation if you're already missing some players like Seamus Callanan, for example. But Clare, I think, really would have raised a few eyebrows yesterday with that performance. Like Peter Duggan being away for a couple of years and then coming back into his first championship game in 2 years to play to the level that he got to was something that's really going to excite Clare people this year, because he was a cornerstone of an attack that came close to getting to an All-Ireland final in 2018. Shane O'Donnell does not need any introduction. Shane O'Donnell's ceiling does not need any illumination for anybody in Ireland. So to see him playing at the level that he's playing at is unbelievably exciting. And possibly most exciting of all is the fact that they would have won the game without Tony Kelly yesterday. Like, arguably the best hurler in Ireland. They didn't even need him. So, like, I mean, Clare must be eyeing up that Cork game and thinking to themselves, we've got a real chance of nicking third spot in this game. And that was always going to be the big upshot yesterday. I think Tipperary are out of it now, having lost back-to-back games. That's not exactly a hot take, but I think Clare would have been out of it had they lost. So this was a huge game yesterday, and Clare stepped up when it really mattered.
Yeah. Clare are going to feel like they're going to cause damage to somebody, certainly when they get out of Munster. And that forward line looks very potent. Like, there was a bit where the ball broke. Yeah, well, the ball broke to Tony Kelly, and already Dognan was like, this should be a point, and it is. Do you know, it's like, you can take that to the bank. He is definitely, he's only going to reach even higher heights. So, like, you know, they're going to be in games. You'd still say Limerick and Waterford are the top two, and they're the top tier, and they're in a tier on their own, and then everybody else is scrapping it out for that. But that doesn't mean that stuff can't happen in a match. Like an early red card, something happens, a bad decision, a good decision. I don't know. The penalty decision was great. The jersey pulling, penalty, straight penalty. Yeah, it is. And then also take it to the bank. Tony Kelly over the penalty. Yes, please.
Yeah. Yeah, and like even players that didn't even start yesterday, Meehan was due to start. I was really excited to see him at full forward yesterday in his first championship season. So he doesn't even play the game. Like, so there's options there, and the squad runs deep, as I say. And like, even it feels like, listening to Tommy Walsh on analysis yesterday, feels like they're starting to unlock John Conlon's potential from a deeper position a little bit more as well, if we're just using yesterday in isolation. So yes, it's an overreaction to suggest that Clare are back and are going to land a punch on someone significant this summer, but it's bloody exciting.
It is. It's great to see. And obviously they've got Cork and Temple Stadium next because of Ed Sheeran, so they ain't going to be fearing that at all. Cork are forewarned is the only thing, but if Cork lose that, it's game over for them too, really.
Like, all of a sudden that game is the biggest weekend of that weekend, like after Clare Tip being the biggest one of this weekend, I would have thought. So yeah, Clare definitely the one to watch. Yeah,
delighted for Lohan and delighted for that team. Joyce taking down Mayo as their last one in green. We're going to talk in much more detail about this, but like, that was, they had to do, they just had to get over that line, whatever it took.
Yes, yesterday was a huge win for Joyce, and that's kind of why I made the point earlier on that I think that's the bigger storyline from yesterday, just getting over the line as opposed to the Mayo fight back at the end. And there's a load of really exciting bits from Joyce's perspective, not least the tactical tweak to stop Horan ball, giving extra pain to Galway football fans. So they managed to figure that out, and I'm sure Cian O'Neill probably had a part to play in that. That bodes well for them trying to figure out games over the next little while. It's just getting that big win in Croke Park, which will take this team forward. Obviously, they managed to do that in Kevin Walsh's reign of that 2018 season when they won their first game in the Super 8s in Croke Park. So getting back there and getting another win and getting back to the All-Ireland semi-finals is absolutely within Galway's reach this season. All right,
OTB AM is brought to you live each morning by Gillette Labs. For an effortless finish to your day, every week we're giving away a Gillette Labs shaving kit to be with a chance of winning. Just let us know who you think should make the performance rankings. We'll read out the best entries a little later on in the show. The best place to enter is the Off The Ball Instagram page. You can see the comments box in our story. We have a packed show still to come. We're talking football with Daniel Harris next. We'll bring you Brian Kerr's thoughts on Manchester United after this quick break.
OTB AM's Performance Rankings with Gillette.